All right, welcome back, everybody, for another episode of Chasing Ghosts. This is the video series where I talk about those hard to find, those impossible to find comics, those things you just don't see up on the wall at your LCS, the books that you got to hunt, get lucky, and really do some research to kind of track down and find. These are some tough books in most cases that you just don't see on the regular. Hopefully, you guys are still enjoying this content. Let me know what you think in the comments section. Please like, subscribe, hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. I'm happy to be back, finally doing this again, getting back to my regular schedule. It's been a couple weeks since I've done one of these because, Baltimore took a lot out of me for prepping and actually coming back, just trying to get the materials ready because I do spend a lot of time putting this stuff together. Don't let it fool you. This stuff ain't easy, but I love doing it, and that's why I do this. I do this because I love it. I love this hobby, and hopefully you guys are still into it because I'm going to keep doing it. Now, I got an odd selection of books in that I'm going to be following up on something that I didn't finish the first time, mostly because there were so many books. And I know we usually save it for after the intro or after the break, but we're going to be getting back into some more Milo Manara books, some of those variants from Marvel back in the day, because I was talking to Ion Comics there at Baltimore, and he was talking about how he liked the first run of the Milo Manara variants. And I said, don't worry, I got another set coming. And it's actually the set I got coming today. It's next up on my to-do list, so that's what we're rolling with as I play a little bit of catch up here over the next few weeks. Now, that said, I'm still taking suggestions. I mentioned this in Hidden Gems. Let me know if you guys like this length. Like, do you like it to be over half an hour, or would you prefer it to be closer to 20 minutes? I can make these shows shorter if you prefer them to be a little bit shorter. I don't know how much time you guys like to spend watching this stuff, and I don't know how much is too much. There's plenty to talk about. There's still plenty of books to do, but I'm just looking for your feedback. So let me know in the comments whether you'd rather have something closer to 20 or something that's, closer to 40 minute wise as far as these shows go. So, like I said, hit me up in the comments and let me know because I want to see what you guys want. And with that all said, I'm not going to waste any more time with the hullabaloo here with the intro. So just hang on for a few seconds after the intro, and I will be right back with this week's books. All right, so getting right into it, because this one with the number of books, I think I got like 13 or 14, will probably be closer to the 30-35 minute range. But we'll see how it goes. Like I said, let me know how much you guys like going through all this stuff. I mean, I can just be more selective and not do whole runs in some cases. But with that said, we are going to finish that run of Milo Manara books, and we are going to go right in with it. These are basically chronological, the way these rolled out. So we're going to pick it up here in, what is this, 2013? This 1 in 25? Yeah, July 2013. All right, this one's just to kind of to warm us up. This is only a 1 in 25, so the ratio is not that high on this one, and this was a heavily printed book. I think it was like it was the number one book for the month. So there are a lot of copies for this one. In fact, there were 110,000, a little over 110,000 for this one. So that's putting our incentive at a whopping 4,400 thereabouts. Guesstimates. Again, this is based on the information available to us online. Comicron numbers. We're doing the basic ratio math. That's not exactly how this works, but it's the best guess that we can have based on what we have available to us. So, not to be set in stone, these numbers. It's just to give you a broad scope idea of how many could be out there. So, with that, this Angela cover on this Guardians of the Galaxy, it's pretty cool. I mean, she's just kind of straddling some chasm there on a volcanic type planet. It is what it is. Not my favorite, but I do actually have this one because I found this one because there are over 4,000 of them, and with those 4,000, there's actually 140 graded, 93 9.8s, 26 9.6s, and then a few others. So there's a lot of these out there, and a lot of these are already graded. I mean, 140s, not too bad of a number, all things considered. As far as what's sold, there were a bunch of sales. Again, plenty of copies. Again, this is our warm-up book, so don't worry. This one's not probably going to make the ghost at the end. So $65, $50, $60 raw. That's what we're looking at here. There's more sales than this. This is just a nice little sampling, a little cross-section of what's sold over the last 3 months. As far as what's available, Yes, there are copies available. So this one, if you went shopping online, you could find this in that 48 to $65 type of range raw. 260 is the ask on a 9.8. And again, there's more than just these three. This is just a little bit of the cross section I could get of what's available, as there are plenty of this particular book out there. Now, again, that was to warm us up. Let's get us back into the mindset of the Milo Manara covers, and you get the kind of like the painterly quality of the art. It's still really good stuff. I like it. And moving on to this book, we have Uncanny XMen number 12, this Battle of the Atom book. That kind of takes away a little bit for me for the cover art here, is that extra little bit of trade dress that's just kind of unnecessary, considering this is the variant. That should have just been on the regular. Didn't necessarily need to be on this one. I like the more minimalized, trade dress at the top there, but the Battle of the Atom and then Chapter 4, that is kind of just, I don't like it. I don't like it. It kind of messes up the image a little bit. I mean, its placement's not too bad, but it's just, it seems awkward. I don't know, for whatever reason. But this one is September 2013, and this is a 1 in 50. So the incentive ratio is a bit higher, though this book was still printed pretty well. Not quite as high as the Guardians, but still 76,000 plus on this one is going to give our incentive still a healthy 1,500 thereabouts for this 1 in 50. So that's not a tiny number, and there are copies. Almost as many graded as the last book, with 137 in the census, 97 9.8s, 27 9.6s, and then a few others kind of rounding that out. Unlike the last book, though, not as many sales. We only got the one sale that I could find on this particular book, which was 165 bucks, or best offer 165 bucks, back in September. So it's been a little while since this is sold, and it only sold it once, and it sold at best offer. Now, if you want to go shopping for one, you don't have a ton of options, but you do have a few. I found four copies out there right now, and all of them are graded. So all of these are slabbed. There were no raws to be found when I looked just this past weekend. So we're looking at a 9.0 at 200 bucks, a 9.6 at $300, and then 9.8s in that $310 to $460 range, which is kind of weird, considering those two at the top are both 9.8s and they're both from my comic shop as most likely consignments. Why is one $150 more than the other? I don't know, but it is. That said, we'll move this one on from here and let's go check out Amazing X-Men. And kind of shifting a little bit from what we've seen for most of these Manara covers, going back even to the last run, it's not a sexy female cover. This time, we got a Kurt Wagner. So we got Nightcrawler here on the cover of this one. It's pretty cool. It's got like a Darkwing Duck kind of vibe to me. I don't know, something about it. Maybe it's the angle on the side of the building, a little bit of a gargoyle. I don't know. I kind of dig it. And this is also a 1 in 50, and this one is from November of 2013. As I said, I'm kind of going chronological with these. I think they're all throughout the whole way. This is an X-Men book. It's an X-Men number 1, so yeah, you probably guessed it. A lot printed. So 112,000 plus printed for this one. So even at a 1 in 50, there's over 2,200 copies potentially of this one out there. And despite that, only 50 graded. So only 50, at least in the CGC census. I know I used to cover both this and the CGC population. I forget what they call it. Population report. I don't know, but it's just a lot of extra work for a very minimal return on what's there. It's just not as well filled out as the CGC census is these days. Even though these numbers could be a little skewed because we don't know if any books are cracked, reslabbed, or redone. So these are still best we have available. 50 copies, 38 9.8s, 7 9.6s, and then a couple of others just kind of filling out that 50. Now, for this one, we did have one sale the last 3 months, and it was only 35 bucks thereabouts. So only like $34 raw back in August. So that one's about to drop off of our 3-month little cycle here. But there it was. There was the one sale back in August for this 1 in 50. And if you want one, well, you got a few you can pick from. Here's 3. There's more than these, but there's 3. It's like $30 raw are the asks, and a 9.8's only looking for $169 by comparison. So it is cheaper. It is cheaper than at least the last book. But yeah, it is what it is. I guess if you like Nightcrawler, this one might be for you, and you can get it at a little bit of a discount. Maybe if they picked one of the female X-Men characters, maybe this book would be a little bit more sought after. But here we are with our Nightcrawler. So we're going to move on to An interesting cover. I don't know why she's dabbing on the front, but Avengers World #1. We got another 1 in 50 coming your way. So Manara did this one in the next year. Actually, we're going to go into January of 2014 now on this one. This is a 1 in 50, and yeah, I don't know what this Cyclops dabbing look is there, but that's what we have kind of have going for us at this point. Now, this one, 86,000 plus on the regular, so our incentive at a 1 in 50 is maybe over 1,700. Yeah, still a decent amount. And in the census, even there's 55 with 43 9/8s, 9 9/6s, and it looks like a couple of others, not too many others. A few sales, not a ton, but a few sales in this. I got three, 25, $30 raw. Looks like the one was at auction with just the one bid, and then a best offer on $200 for a 9.8. So once again, kind of like Nightcrawler, this one isn't commanding a lot of attention. And if you're shopping for one, you still have copies out there available to you, even at a 1 in 50 for one of these. Where again, looking at 30 to $60 raw, and there's a $55 9.0, and then a 9.8 wants $175. Just to kind of give you a range. Again, there's a few more than this, but this is a nice little, again, little chunk of the market to give you a good sense of what's out there. Now, our next one is probably one of the more popular of this run and this time of variants for Manara. So I know everybody's looking for the Spider Woman, which we'll get to. We still haven't hit that one yet, but this is probably the other one I think that comes to a lot of people's minds when they think about these Manara variants, and it's probably one of my favorites. And also, there's foreign editions, but we'll get to that in a second. The Black Widow #1, pretty cool cover. It's darn near iconic at this point. I think this image, we've seen it a lot because, like I said, there are like German versions out there. I think I'm not sure if there's any other others. I've seen a lot of the German, maybe Italian, and maybe some from Mexico, but there are definitely foreign versions of this. So just be careful which ones you're buying. You don't want to pay, the US prices for a foreign version because the foreign versions are generally a little bit cheaper because whether it just be print runner or what have you. Not everybody collects those. It's a different market. It's a little niche that not everybody dips their toe in. Now this one is not a 1 in 50. This one in January was a 1 in 100. So a 1 in 100 variant makes this one a little bit tougher, especially when you consider out of what we've looked at already today, 53,000 is the lowest so far for the estimated print run. 53,000 is still a healthy print run number. Don't get me wrong, but when you take 53,000 as a 1 in 100, we're looking at just over 500 for the incentive. That's our best guess. Again, not set in stone, not confirmed or anything like that. Our guess based on the information that we have. So 538 potential copies makes this one a little bit tougher, and as you'll see, probably a little bit more expensive. Still a decent number graded with 90 in the census, 53 9/8s, 28 9/6s, and a few others. We had one copy sell in the last 3 months, and it not too bad. 3 bids, $150. 150, that'd be close. Like I wouldn't mind ratio for this. And this is, ratio and a half, but it's not terrible when you all things considered. $150. Again, that was back in August, so this one is also going to drop off pretty soon. But be that as it may, it's still a steeper ask than most. I don't generally like to throw $150 out at variants, but I'd consider it. I do like this one, and there are 2 copies out there, but unfortunately, neither are $150. These are both graded copies, both 9.8s, and both looking for about $650. Close enough. So not cheap. So I'm not getting this one just yet. That's it. It is still probably one of my favorites of the bunch. I like the Psylocke from the last time too, but this is probably another one that I really dig. Now, our next one, I considered. I think even placed a bid on one of these that sold recently, but it was just kind of it's a tough book. Let me just take a shot at it. Not really. I need this because it's interesting to be sure. I don't know if I really like the spaghetti vibe of the hair. It's definitely a different take on the Medusa hair. So we got the little spaghetti fingers, I guess. But yeah, hey, it is what it is. Medusa on the Inhuman #1. This is also a 1 in 100, which is again why I considered it. April 2014 on this one. Print run is about in the same ballpark as the Black Widow, so we're looking at about the same number, about 583. It's supposed to 538. I think this is 583. So under 600 copies potentially for this 1 in 100, which is again why I considered taking a shot at one. I didn't win, by the way. In the census for this one, there are 98. So still a decent number, 69 98s, 24 96s, and a few others to get that 98. And there were a few sales. Here we go. What do we have in our little cross section? Yeah, I think that one I bid on might have been right there in that $51 range, but I was just topping out. I was just being cheap. I was just, I like to take shots on some of these weird variants for a lot less than ratio. I wasn't really willing to go up to $50. I don't remember where I tapped out. I might have just went up to like 30 or 35 or something like that. But $51 with 9 bids. Another one, $76 with 28 bids. And then there was a buy it now for about $100. So about close to ratio. So this is still a bit of a bargain when you figure in most books, you price them at baseline ratio. So they're all under $100 for the most part. And if you want to go shopping for one, well, there are copies out there still. Granted, they are kind of hanging around that $100 range. We got $90, $100 raw, and then $200 raw. And there's a few more outside of this, but that's kind of our pricing here. It's a right around ratio to a bit more. But if you're shopping, you got options. You got options. Sticking with this. We're sticking with Manara. We're almost through them. So bear with me here. We do have this Thor. So again, not a sexy girl cover. We shift gears. We go back. We get Thor here. Thor God of Thunder, actually. And this is issue 25. This is, well, one of those argued first Jane Foster Thor appearances that she pops up kind of like a little panel and a cameo at the end kind of thing. But this God of Thunder, which is also a title that was really, really hot a couple of years ago. It was like almost a whole run was selling. I mean, everybody wanted the Gore, God Butcher stuff. And yeah, we had the Jane Foster stuff. So a lot of these books, and then all the Dario Agger spec people were buying there. So this whole run was pretty good find, let alone incentive variants. So this is the 1 in 25 for that final issue of the God of Thunder run. September 2014 on this one. Decent print run, right around that 53,000 kind of mark. But since it's only 1 in 25 and not a 150, we're looking at more of 2,000 plus, more like 2,100 for this one. And in the census, we do have just over 100 copies in the census with 72 9/8s, 18 9/6s, and a few others. And with this book, we actually don't have any recent sales to report here. It's kind of interesting that not one sold, but it's only a 3-month window. It's not a book that's really hot anymore, so not a lot of people are looking for it. So I'm not totally surprised. I'm only mildly surprised considering it's a lower ratio that copies would just move, and at the prices that they are, I'm surprised that not one would. Well, I guess I shouldn't be surprised because they're actually pricier than I thought they would be. I figured this would be maybe double ratio at best, even with that heat. That heat kind of burned off. So I think these are old prices with $150 raw, looking for $430 up to $1,000 in 9.8. I think that's a steep ask for this book. I just don't think it has the momentum to carry that kind of asking price. I mean, once again, it's a debated first appearance of Jane Foster as Thor and cameo at best. And yes, it's a variant, but it's not an impossible to find one. As you can see, there's more copies than what I shared with you. So I just think the prices right now are why you don't see any sold. Like we don't see any sold recently. But be that as it may, we're not here to make judgments on that. I mean, if you're one of the sellers, good luck. Hope you get all that you can. If you're a buyer, I mean, it's up to you to spend your money how you want. I'm not going to tell you how to spend your money. I'm just pointing out the information that's out there, just kind of giving you a look at the market so you get an idea what these books cost if you're shopping for. Or if you take a look and I share something you like it, you want to go shopping. Now you know what you're playing with. Like, what are you up against? With that said, we're going to move on to probably the most popular, most famous of these variants. A lot of interest came because of this book. All the people who think this is recalled, this wasn't recalled. They covered the art. They changed the art on Spider-Woman. They moved the trade dress down. It's not recalled. There's no other versions. This is what we got. It's this version here. And this is a 1 in 50 from November 2014. So these copies are out there. This is, like I said, it's not a recalled book. I know a lot of people think that it has been, but it's not. 1 in 50, November 2014. And there's a decent amount of them potentially out there. With 93,000 print run, there's close to 1,800 or more than 1,800 copies of this incentive variant out there. I just think people like this book for the notoriety that it got, and people just kind of like have it in their collection. So you're not going to see it pop up all that often. Now, we will see it pop up plenty in the census as there's 330 graded copies. 270 of them are 9.8s, 46 9.6s, and then only like a dozen or so extras. So a lot of high grades on this one. A lot of high grades and a lot of graded copies to be, now that we're looking at it. And this book sells. So once again, it moves. It exists. It's not recalled. It's out there. $100 raw, and then a lot of graded copies in that $400 to $450 range for like 9.6s. For 9.6s, those are all 9.6s. There were no 9.8 sales, I don't think, to report in the last 3 months, but 4 to 450 or best offers on $400, and then one for 450 for those 9.6s, and then $100 with 27 bids raw. Ain't too bad, and that's actually not too bad a price. I would have been in maybe if I'd have been paying attention and back in August at this, maybe I would have been playing because I just kind of want one too. It's just again, it's people know this book. It's kind of an infamous book. It's kind of one of those things you want to have in your collection to say, yeah, I got that. So, I don't know. But that said, with what's out there, I'm probably not adding it to my collection anytime soon because I'm not paying $1,000 for a 9.4 or $1,500 for 9.8. It's just not in my budget to do so. So this one's until I see a raw that's close to ratio again, I'm probably not playing. But you make the call for yourself. And yeah, that's it. That's why the one people have been waiting for from Manara. It's a cool cover. Like again, they covered it up. They covered up the impossible pose and the excessive crack. But yeah, it's the last one we got for this. So hopefully you enjoyed that little bit of a run. And now we're going to shift a little gears to wrap us up and hit a couple other oddball Marvel titles just to kind of wrap up the week. First up, Hail Hydra. Just this Secret Wars run, there's a lot of odd little titles and odd little miniseries that they had, and most of them had 1 in 25 incentives at least running through the first 3 issues. So that's what we're kind of covering. Randomly here and there. I know if you noticed, we've been looking at them because there were a lot of them, these miniseries, I mean, and a lot of them had these weird little titles, and print runs dipped on a lot of cases, and yeah, we'll see. We'll see what we're looking at. But here we go. Hail Hydra #1. This is the Wando cover, July 2015, 1 in 25. There was a 44,000 estimated print run, so our 1 in 25 is maybe around 1,800. Decent amount. Only got one in the census, and it's a 9.6. So that first 9.8 is still out there somewhere if you want to be the first. I don't know if there's a lot of Hail Hydra fans out there, but there it is if you want to shoot for it. And if you want to take a shot, you could probably take a shot for cheap because I got one sale to report to you, and it was a whopping $6.20 for this 1 in 25. Hey, just because some of these books could be hard to find doesn't mean they're all going to be hard to find and impossible to find. And not all are going to be super expensive. Some of them, again, this is just me doing research. I was curious. I didn't think there would be a lot. I looked into it and said, oh, there's more copies printed than I thought. And it sells for a lot cheaper than I would have thought. $6. Okay. And if I want to buy one, I got plenty to choose from. If you want one, you've got plenty to choose from. As cheap as $4. $4 for this 1 in 25. Ended up to $6 to $8. And as a note, there's plenty more. I think there was also another 1 in 25, another design variant, but I didn't feel like wasting time showing that one too. You can see there's not a lot of interest in this title or this book, even at these prices. They're out there for $4. I get kind of interested in buying things like this for cheap, but only as like an add-on. So if I was buying another variant or two for cheap from somebody, and then I happen to see this for $4, I might go, okay, put it on the pile too, because why not? For $4, why not? But on its own, I'm not starting a shopping cart with this book. Personally, it's just not, not the one for me. That said, let's check out issue 2. Let's see if we start getting more interesting as we get through these other 2 for this run. So this is Hail Hydra #2. All right, kind of a cool, kind of classic cover. You got the Hydra skull kind of chasing him down in the background. This is Ron Garney, who I always think of from that Captain America run he had back in the day. 1 in 25, September 2015. This one, print run dips. It was 44,000 for issue 1. It dropped all the way to 26 for this second issue, and that makes the incentive just over 1,000, which again, it's not a tiny number, but it's not a huge number either. And despite the fact that there was 196 for issue 1, we got none for issue 2. Nobody's graded this so far. Nobody thought this was worth grading. Not only that, nobody's bought one either in a while for us to kind of report. Just no sales. It's kind of odd. 1,000 of them potentially out there. No sales. And we only got one. We only got one out there, and they want $2. $2. I almost bought this just out of pity, but I haven't yet. Maybe I will still. We'll see. We'll see by the time this airs tomorrow if that $2 copy is still sitting out there. If it's not, I probably just broke down and said, all right, $2 plus $4 shipping. What the hell? I'm buying it. But we'll see. But that's what we got for this one. Issue 2. There's one out there. $2. As I said, they're not all going to be expensive, but they still could be tough to find because if you guys wanted this book, there's only one out there for everybody. That said, let's get to issue 3. And another reason why I got to this series was because I've talked about issue 3 before in the artist retrospective I did on David Aja, who did this 1 in 25. I mentioned this book because it's different. It's a different take. It's not like a character. You got a reverse cityscape, just kind of gears, and I kind of like it. I like the simple colors, just the black, white, and red, and the green, obviously with the green. I don't know, kind of like it. That said, print run is still down in that 22,000 range, so it's about 900 for the incentive on this one. And like the last book, we have no graded copies. None. Nobody graded this book. Also surprising. I figured somebody would get this graded. All the things people mail in to get graded, nobody thought to grade this incentive variant. All right. Whatever. There are copies sold, though, for this. Not a lot. Not a lot. Just 2. $8, $12. That's not too bad. That's not too bad. I might be a buyer if we get those prices. Are there any available? We actually do have some available, and they are not that expensive. So I'm kind of curious. Granted, it's $5, but it's from the UK, so it's another 9. So it's really a $14 book. Then there's a $15 book with $5 shipping, and then there's another one in the UK that is $8, but you got to pay for that extra shipping here in the US. It's like $16 shipping on that one, so that's really more of a $25 type of ask. So we're still looking 14 to 25 when you factor the shipping in there. All right, it's not super duper cheap, but I might consider it if I was making a pile. I've bought from the UK a couple of times. I'm not opposed to it. I'm not opposed to paying for shipping where shipping is needed. It's just I'm going to do my best to make that shipping worthwhile and buy more than one thing if I can. But that's just me. That's just how I roll. That said, those are our Hail Hydras. And let's go on to the last little bit, which is just an offshoot title that Marvel published comics of. This is James Patterson, Max Ride, First Flight. I know very little about these series, and I see these regular ones in the cheap boxes and dollar bins all the time. I didn't know until doing a little bit of research that they actually had a few incentives. Not many. I think it was only really the issue ones that got incentives, but there were incentives nonetheless. This one is for issue 1. Dustin Nguyen, 1 in 20 back in April of 2015. So this one starts off with a 1 in 20 incentive. But considering the fact that the print run is only estimated about 16,000 for this book, our 1 in 20 is giving us only maybe 800 copies. So as you can see, it's already lower than any of the other books we've looked at already. And unlike the last 2 books where there's none graded, there's actually 3 graded copies, which actually surprised me. More so than the last. All 3 of them are 9/8, but there are only 3 graded copies, but there are 3 graded copies for this one. So that's kind of cool. A copy sold in the last 3 months, and it sold for only $5 with one bid. So again, may not be easy to find, but that doesn't always mean that it's going to be expensive. And despite the fact that we only had the one sale, and I say that it may not be easy to find, it's not that tough because this one does have more copies out there, more than these 3, and it's as cheap as $1.25, up to $15, $12. But yes, there is the one for $1.25. I'm interested. Again, maybe I'll break down and end up buying that before this airs tomorrow night. I'm filming this late on Monday. This will air on Tuesday after I edit it up. But $1.25. Crazy, right? And there's more than just these 3. That's the little cross section, little sampling that I pulled for you. And yeah, we do have a little bit more because this Max Ride series actually had 3 like arcs, I guess you would say, 3 little minis. This is the first flight. The next one is the ultimate flight. And with the ultimate flight, we got another incentive. This one was Todd Knock, if I'm saying his name right, November 2015. 1 in 25 incentive here. So they went from the 1 in 20 up to a 1 in 25 this time. However, the print run went from a 16,000, I think, print run down to a 5,800. So with only 5,800 total copies, and they upped the ratio to 1 in 25, 235 copies is what we would guess they have for the variant and for this incentive. And with that sort of number, I'm not surprised that this one has no copies graded. Just saying. I will say, however, that I am surprised that with that low number, we only had one sale, and that sale was only $15 back in August. Once again, this is another one's probably going to drop soon because it only goes back 3 months, the history. So what are we at? November, so October, September, yeah, August. So we're probably going to be cutting off soon from that sale. $15. And yes, I was counting with my fingers. I don't know. It's late. I'm tired. That said, we're going to go into what's available, and we do have two. I was curious if there was going to be any, and then I found two. Two Raws, one $15. It looks very similar to the one that sold. So maybe this seller had more than one. Maybe they found them in a pallet sale or something like that. All the stories from these variants at that time that don't let these ratio amounts fool you. There's copies that exist. They find their way into those 5 and below packs and the Walmart packs and all that stuff. I mean, I don't know. It's all possible because once again, even if we do our ratio math and say there's this many of the incentive, if stores didn't order all those copies, they may not get all the incentives. So those incentives are probably just sitting somewhere and then they get sold at these pallet sales and whatnot. But still, that all notwithstanding, $15 to $25 on these two options that you have for this book, which is going to take us to our last book for tonight. It's going to be the final run for the Max Ride series. This is Final Flight. Apropos, right? So James Patterson's Final Flight. And if you look at this and you say, that art kind of looks a little bit familiar, it should, because we covered her recently on Hidden Gems. Saya. This is a 1 in 25 from September 2016. So Saya did the variant on this one. And this one, I got to tell you, might be tough. Reason why is because when I went to check Comic-Con, I checked all over. It didn't even seem to make the minimum list, which means it was below the bottom ordered book. So it was under 2,252 copies, which if we do that math, that means it's under 90 potential copies. Again, just doing a guess based on what's there. This didn't even make the top 300 or whatever on Comic-Con, and the lowest book for that month was 2252. So it's under that. And then you do a 1 in 25 incentive on top of that. So once again, I'm not surprised there are no graded copies of that book. And I'm also not surprised that there were no copies of this book sold. However, I was surprised that I found a copy available. $25. If this were like in that $5-10 range, I probably would have bought it right away. Even at 25, I'm kind of considering it because this has got to be hard to find. It's just unique. I don't know. There's no real spec value to it. I don't think there's anything coming from Max Ride, but I just like oddball things, especially if I can find it for a good price. So paying ratio, even for something as hard to find as this, I'm not totally into it. It's tempting. But we'll see. I don't know. That all said, that's what I got for you this week. So let's take a look at the pile of books we had because most of them had plenty of copies this week. Not a lot of tough ones this week. So even with all those high ratio incentives from Manara, there were plenty of copies for most of them. So these we will say are hard to find. What do we got there? 12? Yeah, I think I got 12 books there. So dozen books, only hard to find. And surprisingly, 2 ghosts. I know it's a loose term. Both of these each had 1 copy each. So that Hail Hydra 2, for whatever reason, had that 1 copy for $2. And then this Max Ride Final Flight 1 in 25 had that 1 copy for $25. So they're not even expensive, like hard to find books. They're just books that pretty low print runs, and maybe they only have 1 out there. So based on that 1 or none kind of criteria I've had for chasing ghosts, at least the bulk of this run, we'll call these 2 are ghosts. Again, let me know what you think in the comment section. Agree, disagree. Tell me if you have any of these books. I would love to see it, especially these oddball things. Just because, I don't know, it's kind of fun. Comic collecting should be fun. Let's not take this all too seriously, right? Let's just have fun. Let's talk some comics. And thank you all for stopping by and checking this out. I appreciate you. I appreciate your support to the channel and all the other shows that we do here. And yeah, as long as you guys keep watching and keep enjoying it, I'm going to keep doing these because I still got more books to talk about. Maybe I'll run out one of these days, but so far I have not. So we're going to keep this train rolling. Again, let me know what you think. If you think this length is fine, we're about 35 minutes this time out. If that seems a bit long, I can try to shoot from closer to 20 if you think that would be better or more suitable for your need, your watching habits and whatnot. I don't know. Like I said, let me know in the comments. And once again, thank you. And I will see you guys all soon with some more content. All right. Later.